Yo, what's up everybody, it's Tuna. In this video, I wanted to have more of a chat with you guys and a theory craft about the Ralakesh Impatience because I strongly believe that this is going to be, and is in its current state, how they're changing it in 3.23, one of the most broken uniques in the game and something that pretty much everybody should have a play with because I think it's going to be completely insane. It's one way of saying it, but I've heard some people talk about it, but really I just wanted to put my thoughts down on this video and talk about just how crazy it is, right? So looking at this item, they have changed it in that it no longer gives you the maximum charges when you're standing still. It now gives you this bonus instead. Count as having maximum number of endurance, frenzy, and power charges. What does that mean, right? Because you're not actually getting these charges, however, you count as though you have them and maximum, and you no longer have to be standing still as well. So they completely removed what was previously the downside of it, and they gave us this interaction instead. Let's talk a little bit first about what charges are and what they can provide for the players. So charges, endurance charges will give you physical damage reduction, 4% each, as well as 4% elemental resistance. Frenzy charges will give you attack and cast speed per frenzy charge, as well as 4% more damage per charge, and power charges can give you 50% increased critical strike chance per power charge. However, there's many items in the game where you can tie extra bonuses granted by having those charges, which are also, they count as though you have the charges because of the boots, right? So essentially this was clarified by GGG in saying that for most purposes, it's the same as actually having maximum charges. You'll gain the inherent stats granted by charges. Anything that gives you stats per charge will behave as if you have maximum charges and so forth. This just removes the abuse case scenario involved with unequipping the boots and then spending the charges. What that means is that we can do some very insane stuff. Like, for example, there are brutal, affliction, and absorption charges, which are granted by the belts given by Maven. And essentially what these do is they will make it so that you can no longer gain endurance, frenzy, and power charges. However, you will get this instead. You will get brutal charges, right? Which gives you additional damage. They give you a chance to deal triple damage and increases the stun threshold for each brutal charge they have, which is 3% chance to deal triple damage per charge. And affliction charges will give you 8% more damage with ailments and 8% more effective non-damaging ailments per charge. And absorption charges will give you 12% of elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield. So these bonuses, we can actually gain benefit of them while also having the other charges, because the boots don't implicitly say otherwise, right? They're saying you just count as having the charges, so you are actually still able to generate additional charges, right? So we are not 100% sure yet if this is actually an interaction that is going to go through or how it's going to be coded, but as it's stated in the Q&A, and as we understand so far, it seems as though you'll be able to actually gain these extra charges as well as also having the bonus of the other charges, right? So if you are investing into frenzy charges and then you were to get the affliction charges on top of that, you would get, so for example, if you had 10 frenzy charges, 40% more damage as well as the other bonuses, you will also have 80% more damage with ailments and a more effective non-damaging ailments on top of that. You're basically just double dipping on charges, which is absolutely insane, right? And on top of that, this is giving you +1 maximum frenzy charge on a belt, meaning you'll get an extra frenzy charge and you'll get all the affliction charges, and that applies to basically all of these other belts. This seems like the combination of Ralakesh plus these cloth belts that are dropped from Maven going to be pretty crazy. But that is only one interaction that might break the game that is involving these boots, right? So the next thing I wanted to talk about is maybe some other smaller interactions. Like, for example, worm signs. It says you gain rampage while at maximum endurance charges, but since we are always at maximum endurance charges, that means that you'll always have rampage. And the downside of this, of course, is that you were to lose all endurance charges when rampage ends, but since you are literally not able to lose endurance charges because you always count as maximum, you'll just basically get rampage again as soon as it ends. So there's no downside to these gloves whatsoever. So that is one cool thing. But it gets crazier and crazier because you have items like the ephemeral bond, which has a huge downside of it being 90% less power charge duration. So you basically had to constantly generate power charges to keep up with this downside. And the upside of it, of course, is that you were getting a ton of flatlining damage per power charge, and critical strike multiplier if you've gained a power charge recently, which you can still gain power charges, right? So you'll always want to have a way to generate power charges, but you no longer care if they actually drop off, because you're always going to be getting this extra damage no matter what. However, of course, this you'll want to have generation. So as soon as you gain the power charge, you'll gain the extra critical strike multiplier, which is pretty cool, but you'll have a static increase in your lightning damage there because of this roll, which is pretty cool. This amulet actually becomes not garbage anymore, which is pretty cool to see. But the next item, which is even more insane, and is something that I've actually wanted to work into a build for a long time, but haven't been able to because of the downside, is the Toolfall Opal 1, which is the upgraded version of the Toolborn. You can upgrade that with a Blessing of Tool. So essentially what that turns the wand into is a complete flat damage. It's just insane how much flat damage it gives you, right? So imagine you had 10 power charges, you would have... you would have 500 to 700 additional cold damage to spells. That's global. It's going to apply to pretty much literally everything. All spells are just going to get that additional flat damage, which is just insane from a wand. That's basically like having like a level 28 or even higher added cold damage support. So yeah, that's just insane from a wand. And the downside of it, of course, is that you lose all power charges on reaching maximum power charges. So, you're basically, you no longer have the downside of losing your charges. You always have the static buff. And on top of that, you have a good amount of cast speed on, and just this, I'm just in awe, like how this item is actually going through the way that it is currently designed, because it just, you can have some insane stuff like this, give you so much damage and so much power and so much utility. So next is the Malachai's Loop, and the Malachai's Loop is another one of those items which has a downside, right? Lose all power charges on reaching maximum power charges, but it gives you +2 maximum power charges, which +2 is insane to get from a offhand. And on top of that, it gives you additional spell damage per power charge. So you're getting insane additional bonuses from your power charges and at absolutely no downside. Of course, you're going to be using a shield that has no life. So if you're a life build, you're kind of like losing out on that a bit. But it does have a decent amount of energy shield, up to 231 on the top end if you get a good roll. So yeah, the only downside of this, of course, is that you are still going to be you're going to be gaining power charges, right? So you are going to have to get ailment immunity somehow. But the biggest downside of this, of course, is that you were to lose all power charges on reaching maximum power charges. But since you always count as having maximum, you just get +2 and additional spell damage. So it's just a ton of damage for basically free, right? And +2 power charges. People are paying upwards of 300 divines for a +1 implicit ring with power charge. And this one has +2. Next, the Militant Faith. You think that these boots would stop giving, but no, they don't stop giving. The Militant Faith is a Legion jewel, which, once it rolls with Templar Dominus, once you carved of the Glord, whatever, it gives you Inner Conviction. And Inner Conviction is a keystone, and this keystone has a hefty downside, which is, you gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. So anyway, if you were to generate power charge like frenzy charges, you would never actually be able to get frenzy charges with this keystone otherwise. But since the boots allow you to actually have maximum frenzy charges, this means that you are only getting the 3% more spell damage per power charge with absolutely no downside, which is is absolutely insane. You're basically getting, if you have 10 power charges, 30% more spell damage on top of the fact that 10 frenzy charges would give you 40% more damage. And then you're getting all of the other bonuses from the other items, like the increased spell damage, the Toolfall that gives you flat damage, and all of this kind of stuff, which is pretty insane. And all of this ties in with the Badge of the Brotherhood, right? So because the Badge of the Brotherhood allows your maximum frenzy charge to be equal to your maximum power charges. So this enables you to stack power charges, and then those power charges get turned into, into frenzy charge, maximum frenzy charges as well. So essentially, imagine I invest into power charges. I have 11 power charges or 10 power charges. That means that I have, on top of that, 10 frenzy charges, and then I can go Inner Conviction and have no downside of it. So I will get, my maximum frenzy charge. I no longer need to have minimum frenzy charge jewels. I will just be at my maximum all the time because of the Ralakesh boots. And this is just getting a little bit crazy, right? So you can see that the combinations of, Badge of the Brotherhood plus Ralakesh Impatience and Inner Conviction. I think this is going to be really, really insane, this league, and you're going to see all kinds of people doing this. The skills that you can use, of course, that is up to people to decide. You're going to be seeing, I think, a lot of people play this with Winter Orb, any sort of cold skill, because of the interaction that it has with the Toolfall wand, which I think Toolfall wand is finally going to see some use. So people are going to use that wand, and I am really looking forward to seeing what people can do with this. But, you know, just outside of that as well, there's other things that you can do. And one thing that came to mind was Tectonic Slam, because Tectonic Slam specifically says that every third time you slam the ground with the skill, you consume an endurance charge, right? But you are gaining 5% more area of effect per endurance charge. So if you don't have any endurance charges, this downside doesn't really matter, right? Because it's not saying that you actually need to consume an endurance charge to deal damage or anything like that, but you are gaining more area per endurance charge. Essentially, that means that since you are always considered to be at maximum endurance charges, you're always going to be getting the benefits of Tectonic Slam's area of effect, but none of the downsides, since it doesn't matter if you're consuming endurance charges, you're always going to get maximum area of effect. So now I'm just basically rambling, but things get pretty out of control, because you can always additionally stack modifiers, you know, that get flat damage per charges, and all of this other crazy stuff. There's a Restless Ward as well, which gives you increased movement speed per frenzy charge, as well as regen, and all kinds of other items that get bonuses and all this stuff. I'm going crazy here, chat. I'm going crazy here just thinking about all of these things. And yeah, I hope you guys are excited about these boots too. I'm gonna put these, you know, these are gonna be on my radar for this league, and I'm looking forward to playing around with these. I'm sorry if this video wasn't so structured. I just basically just wanted to talk about these boots. I'm really excited about them, and I genuinely think that, you know, this is one of the strongest uniques that we've had ever, pretty much. It's not on par with Mageblood, right? But it's a few notches down, but it is absolutely insane. It's on that level, honestly. Like it's absolutely crazy. Hope you guys are excited about this too, and I'm really looking forward to the league start, and I hope you guys are too. Take it easy, everyone. Sorry for rambling as much as I did, but holy, yeah, we're gonna have a good one, boys. All right, peace out, everyone.